Episode 65. Episode 65. It's episode 65 of Talking with Tasha. Ta-da! All right, thanks for coming back for another episode of Talking with Tasha. Real quick, I started watching, I think it's called Department Q on Netflix. It's a British procedural, and I am loving. I think it's British. There's lots of accents, actually. But anyway, I'm really enjoying that if you like a whodunit kind of thing. Had to slip in a little bit of talking about TV. You know how it is. The Hamilton reunion at the Tonys. Got to talk about that for a minute. Or actually, lack of talking, because I watched it and just had goosebumps and was speechless, and I loved it so much. Also, a lot of events going on this weekend in Sioux Falls, so we'll talk about that real quick before we jump into the interview. What is going on this week? We got Phase Fest out at the baseball fields. We got Tacos and Tequila out at the baseball fields. We got Pride Weekend events. We got Festival of Cultures. It's Father's Day this weekend. I'm probably forgetting some stuff. So if you're in the Sioux Falls area, celebrate safely, be safe, make good choices. If you're not in the Sioux Falls area, also still be safe and make good choices and celebrate however you see fit for whatever you're celebrating. I mean, especially in the Midwest, we only have about 12 weekends to fit in all our summer fun, and every weekend seems to get real busy. Okay, now to the interview. You know I love me some food. And so when I met this person and she said, "Oh yeah, I'm a chef." And in the back of my head, I'm not going to lie, I was like, "Yeah, sure, Jan." But she really is like a fancy pants chef. She's worked in a Michelin star restaurant, some pretty high-end places. She knows her stuff. She helped me make pasta. You can see all the videos on all the social medias and YouTube and all those places. It is Chef April Johnson. Yes, chef, from right here in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota area. She went away, put her stamp on some things, and now she's coming back to put a stamp right back in her hometown. So if you enjoy food, which we all do, I think you'll enjoy this conversation with Chef April Johnson. You had was it a brunch this morning, or what was it?
Yeah, it was a bachelorette party at Plums. It was like the day after, so they had a party kind of like the night before, and then they wanted to cap it off the next morning. So they wanted Italian theme. So it was like brunch, lunch, like it started at
Mm-hmm.
11. So
Were they hungover?
yeah, for 12 people. They had a lot of fun. No, they were good. They were good, honestly. And they were all like, sometimes with private events, you never know because sometimes they're a little chit chatty, which is fine because that's why they say to book a private
Mm-hmm.
event at Plums because I'd rather have you book it and then just talk and do whatever than be in like a big class and buy a bunch of seats and then there's people who actually want to listen and then they can't like listen and take notes because they're like distracted. So, but they were actually really good. They really didn't talk a bunch. It was
Oh,
good. They asked a lot of questions. They had fun. It was good.
cool. So yeah, I guess we should.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of just jumped right in, but you are Chef April
Yeah.
Johnson, and you do private events and eventually a ressTrant coming. So maybe just start there. You
Oh,
came back to Sioux Falls to,
like just give an
yeah,
introduction
like,
or like you just want me to be like, can do whatever.
or we can just go all the way back. Little April, did you always want to cook, or
Yeah,
like,
I think,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
we should,
Like, how did it
yeah.
happen?
Yeah, so I grew up in Madison, South Dakota, and I grew up across the street from my grandparents. Super lucky, not everybody gets to do that. Was super fortunate to have a really good relationship with both of my grandparents, especially my grandma. And so I would go over to her house and help her cook. She would teach me things. And so my mom kind of saw that I had this love for cooking. And so I was in 4 H, and 4 H has a contest called Special Foods,
Mm.
which is where you can cook something and then you present the nutrition information on it. You have to weigh or measure out so many ingredients, and then you also have to set a proper place setting, like very Midwest, like just very good, like basic skills. And so I decided to make spaghetti because that was my favorite food. And so then I ended up getting a second place ribbon. And when the judge handed me this ribbon, just in my head, I thought to myself, I'm going to be the best chef ever. And it just never stopped. Like it never stopped.
What dish beat you? What beat your spaghetti?
So the way 4-H works is multiple people can get second place ribbons, first place ribbons. It's all kind of like a point
Oh,
system.
gotcha.
So Yeah, it's not really like trying to be the best of the best. It was just if you got first place ribbon, you would qualify to go and compete at the state
Oh,
fair
okay.
in the fall.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. I'm assuming you graduated high school, like probably took home ec or food science or whatever they call it these days.
yeah.
Did you? Because, yeah, I mean, a lot of schools don't offer some of that stuff now, but did you take advantage of those kind of classes in even high school?
Yeah, so in middle school, when I was in seventh grade, my parents decided they wanted me and my sisters to go to Sioux Falls Christian. So moved down to Sioux Falls for middle school, high school. And so in high school, I had the opportunity to take classes at Sioux Falls
Oh,
CTE.
okay.
And so they have a really awesome program, commercial kitchen and everything. And so I was in the Pro Start program, it's called. And so that's like a 2 year curriculum for high school kids put on by the National Restaurant Association Educational Foundation. And so you learn everything from safety and sanitation to basic knife skills to different cooking methods and managing a restaurant. And it really gives you a solid grasp on, hey, do I want to go to culinary school after I graduate or work in a restaurant? Or hey, maybe I like cooking at home, but cooking in a restaurant isn't what's going to be
Yeah.
for me because it is two completely different things, which is something like a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I could, like, I don't mind cooking at home, but when the pressure's on or you're cooking for a lot of people, like, I don't know. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, you have to be super organized and have good time management to be able to work in a
Yeah,
restaurant
for
for
sure.
sure.
So then you graduate
Yeah.
high school, then what? Where did you go? What did you do?
Yeah. Yeah, so by being in Sioux Falls CTE and in their culinary programs, I was able to compete in culinary competitions at the state and national level, which was huge for me because by being in those competitions, I was able to win scholarships to go to
Oh,
culinary
nice.
school.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just culinary schools in the area or around in Minnesota or anything like that or in South Dakota. It was big places like Johnson and Wales, which had multiple locations at the time all over, and then also the Culinary Institute of America, and so that's where I decided to go. So I went to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, and then ended up getting my associate's degree in culinary arts there. But I wouldn't have been able to go there without having been in Pro Start and doing Skills USA competitions and getting scholarships. Like it would have just never been in the cards for me,
Yeah.
because it's so far away.
And I
Yeah.
guess, I mean, I know you're never supposed to ask a lady her age, but I feel like you're pretty accomplished for how old you are. Like, do you want to tell people how old you are?
Yeah, I mean, I just turned 27, so sometimes I have to catch myself. I still want to say 26, but no, I just turned 27. So,
Yeah. And so
yeah.
because you've worked in some pretty fancy pants places and like done some traveling and stuff. So do you want to like tell us about some of that?
Yeah, so I've worked in a Forbes triple five-star resort. I've worked in two platinum rated country clubs. I've competed internationally 3 times. I've also done just other competitions that have been local. And then I also worked for Thomas Keller at the three Michelin starred The French Laundry in Napa, California, before coming back to Sioux Falls to work on opening up my own restaurant and creating my own business.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like to do all that by 27, that's, I don't know. It seems like a lot to me. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things. It's so humbling whenever I get to tell people my story, just because when I was a kid, if I in high school, if you would have said, "Hey, someday you're gonna meet Thomas Keller, who is one of the most accomplished chefs in America,
Yeah.
and you're gonna get to work for him," I would have been like, "No way!" Like if you would have told me everything that's happened in my life up to this point as a kid in high school, I would have been like, "There's no
Yeah.
way."
And then,
But
okay, as someone that
yeah.
watches a lot of TV, part of the reason, I mean, I met you before I commented on the bear that one time and you had to chime in, but as
Yeah,
someone that just watches
yeah.
a lot of TV, and obviously there's a lot of cooking shows kind of thing, but there's also movies and TV shows about the restaurant industry, and a lot of times the head chef is a dickhead, or working for them is basically being like harassed every day, and women are treated like shit, and like all this kind of, which I always thought was interesting that traditionally women cooked in the home, but yet chefs were all men. Like, who
Yeah,
taught them to cook? Hello, like anyway, I know.
yeah.
So, what has been your experience like working for Thomas Keller? Was he scary or like what, or even I watch Below Deck, like every chef on Below
Yeah.
Deck is crazy. They just
Yeah.
get pissed at everything. And you know what I mean? Like, what has been your experience in professional kitchens, I guess?
Yeah, so I mean, there's been definitely some kitchens where I've worked in where the kitchen culture hasn't been very good. There's just like this big connotation where basically cooking started way back in Europe early on, and it was very much a trade. And so it was something that only males did for restaurants because it was a lot of really hard labor. Like you're having to go and grab coal or wood to light the stoves and the ovens. Like that was literally some people's just jobs during that time for the brigade system, like Los Brigade, bringing in fresh coal or wood so that the fires would keep going, so that people would keep cooking. And so it's one of those things where it started out very much because back in those times, it was very much the women. They stayed home, took care of the kids, took care of the house, and it was a lot of males in the kitchen for restaurants and everything like that. And so it's crazy too because there's a lot of females in the restaurant industry, but there's very few who are in positions of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is just because with a kitchen, there is a lot of high intense moments. Service can be stressful, which is why, like I said earlier, it's not for everybody. If there's somebody who thinks they really want to cook at home, go get a job in a restaurant, even if it's being a host, a busser, a dishwasher, even if it's not cooking, just so you can kind of see, because it's a very fast paced environment. And I've definitely worked in kitchens where it's been really awesome and the kitchen culture has been amazing. Or there's been some where I've worked at where, especially when I was in high school and was younger, I was working at a restaurant and one of the cooks, one of the things they'd always say to me is, "Oh, you're not really going to do this. You think you're going to do this, but you're actually going to drop out and you're going to go do something like go to beauty school because there's no way you can handle being in the kitchen. You're not going to make it, you know?" Or there's one time I've had a chef, he threw a pot at me one time because he was really mad. And so stuff like that where it's definitely not okay, but it's something where a couple decades ago that was totally normal where it's a kitchen is this rough and tough place. But then I've also worked for kitchens where it's been an amazing kitchen culture and you just form a bond and with your coworkers and you really feel like a team. You know, I've worked for some chefs who have been incredible mentors who show you, hey, you don't have to be the chef that's swearing at everybody. You don't have to be the chef that is getting angry because a steak gets overcooked. That happens to everybody,
Yeah.
you know. It's been definitely learning to give people the benefit of the doubt and in this industry to just understand that there's always going to be people who are learning. There's always going to be people who want to grow and learn. And it's really hard to keep employees if you're going to sit here and treat them like
Yeah.
garbage. I never want to be the reason that somebody
Yeah.
quits working in a kitchen because of what I say. Especially, too, I think the biggest thing was working for Thomas Keller, his kitchens and the way he runs everything. It's such a high level of professionalism where cooking, it's truly a profession. Like, one thing he always says is, as a chef, it's your job to nurture
Oh.
people. And that's such a good way to put it. Something how I kind of phrase things is I always like to cook with intention. And so that's not just picking the best ingredients or picking the right seasonings or flavor pairings. It's also about just the overall how clean you're working, how you talk to people, if you're actually doing things the most efficient way. At the end of the day, that's how it all lines up. Because even to working at the French Laundry, it was such a high intensity job. You're cooking multiple courses, the food is at the highest level. And I wouldn't have been able to have worked there for as long as I did if it was in an environment where people were constantly berating me or telling me I'm terrible or saying inappropriate
Yeah.
things. Like it's very much a place where it doesn't have to be like how some people think it or how it's portrayed in the movies. Like you don't have to get mad. It's not fun getting mad, you
Yeah.
know? It's something I really try to not do. And obviously nobody's perfect. There's going to be times where people say things they shouldn't, but it doesn't have to be, I think, like in the way the media portrays
Yeah.
it all the time.
Another thing I've seen on, in the entertainment world is newer chefs. They'll be tasked with all they do all day is like peel pistachios or something. Not peel. What is the right word for
Yeah.
pistachio? Or like,
Yeah, like they take them out of the
yeah, or
shell, sort
like,
of.
I don't know,
Yeah,
like grape leaves. Like all you do all day is wash grape leaves.
yeah, pick
Yeah, yeah.
parsley.
Like, is that really
Yeah.
a thing? Like that you kind of have to start there and work up?
Yeah. every kitchen's different. And so there's some places where you rise through the ranks and you kind of prove yourself. But then there's other places where it's like, hey, you just come in, you start prepping and cooking. And it all depends on the style of food and the kind of service that you're having. What was at the French Laundry? I was what was called a commis, which is the AM prep. But even being the AM prep, all the jobs are so intense. So you could be having to have like a very complicated recipe that you'd have to make. But then we would have different seasons where it was almond season. And so we would get green almonds and then you'd have to shell the green almonds and all of that. So definitely it can be that way. More so in Europe, like everything, like if you go with the really old school French brigade system, you start from the bottom and you work your way up. And that's something that's really important too. It's like if you don't want to wash dishes, that's the big thing too as a chef, is a lot of people don't realize how much cleaning is involved. So if you don't like to clean, definitely reconsider if you want to work in a restaurant or not, because cleaning is 30% of your job at least. You want to take pride in the food you're serving and how you're serving it and where you're serving it. And so cleaning is definitely a bigger part than what you think. And everybody has to clean.
Yeah, and like you said, learning the like sanitation part of it and there's rules. Like my mom even worked in kitchens
Hmm.
for like at nursing homes and stuff, and she'd always be like, "Oh, State's here this week." Like you really have to. There's rules about cleanliness, and you got to be on top of that. And just about every cooking show, though, I feel like does actually show, not like on Food Network, but dramatize things. You'll see them like grease traps and yeah,
Yeah.
like gross,
Yeah.
but it has to be
Yeah.
done.
No, but it's stuff that definitely has to be done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Can you recall a time when there was a defining moment when you were like, okay, I am on the right track. Food is going to be what I do. Was there ever any hesitation to like go do something else, or was it always this? Like, when did you know?
I think I've definitely had moments in my career where I felt burnt out, or I feel like it's been really hard to want to show up and do my job every day. I think though, at the end of the day though, I just have such this deep love for cooking. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. Like if I was to lose my arm in a car accident and I was told I couldn't cook anymore, like I don't know what I would do. I mean, I love everything about it, just like the creativity. I love having a job where I'm on my feet all the time. I guess I would say if there was one specific moment that I can think of in my head. So I was able to be an apprentice for the ACF Culinary Olympic team in 2020. The executive chef of my country club that I was working at the time, he was one of my mentors. And so he was a replacement for the team about 3 months before they had to go
Oh,
compete in
wow.
the Culinary Olympics in Germany. And so he asked me to be his apprentice. So for 3 months, I was working nonstop, like before work, going and doing my shift at the country club, and then even staying some nights after work to help just get ready for everything. Like we did 3 years of work in 3 months. Like we were just
Wow.
going, trying to put up the best food that we could for the Culinary Olympics. So then we went over to Germany. It was just so amazing to be able to help the team and see all of our hard work kind of pay off. And so there was just something where after the award ceremony and we're driving back to the hotel, just something in my head, I was like, okay, I've made it. And it was just kind of that thought of this guy back when I was in high school who would say, oh, you can't do this. You're going to end up dropping out of culinary school, working at a beauty salon. You're just going to do people's hair. I'm like, well, I've definitely proved him wrong,
Yeah.
where it was definitely a moment where I was like, okay, I did it. This is something I never thought I could do. And having a mentor who saw something in me for to be like, hey, I want you to help me get ready for this is something that was truly special. I got to learn so much in those few months that I was able to work with him all the time. It was really
Do we
cool.
know where that guy is now?
Yeah, so he is still in the restaurant industry. He works at a different country
Oh,
club.
okay.
And I mean, me and him will still talk occasionally.
Oh.
And yeah, definitely wouldn't be where I am today without having his guidance and mentorship for sure.
Why was that guy so hung up on beauty school? Like, did you like doing hair too? Like, why was that the other thing?
No, I think it's because so this restaurant I worked at, it was while I was in high school, and I was the really one of the few females, but I was just so young.
Yeah.
And I think it's just one of those things where it was cool to just try to make people feel bad. They almost thought it's like if you can handle being having mean things said about you and you don't quit or anything, then you've made it. You're tough. It's almost kind of like initiation for some people where they're like, okay, what's the worst thing that we can say or do to this person? And then, okay, if they can do that and then still cook in this high stress environment, then okay, they can make it. It's almost like a rite of
Yeah.
passage for some people.
Uh, I know you mentioned your grandma learning to cook from her and things like that, but were there some other big culinary influences growing up? Like, did you see Emeril Lagasse on TV, or like, was there anybody notable,
Yeah,
influential people in your life like that?
yeah. So actually, my very first instructor in culinary school, his name was Rudy Speckamp. He was a certified master chef. And so that's a very hard title to come by. He was from Germany. And so he was my first chef. And in culinary school, your first chef is the chef who you have the longest for the way the program is set up. And so I got to spend 15 weeks or like a whole semester learning how to cook from him. And something he would always say is, as a chef, the two things you control are time and temperature. It's something he'd say to us students all the time. Something that still sticks with me, and even when I'm teaching classes at Plums, I say it all the time to people, you know? And so he actually ended up introducing me to the chef who I worked for, who ended up taking me to the Culinary Olympics.
Nice.
And so I didn't find out the full story until years later when I was done working for my chef. But basically what happened is after your first year, you have to do a internship for 15 weeks. And so I had asked Chef Speck, hey, where do you think I should go? And he's like, oh, you should go to the Chevy Chase Club in Washington, D.C. I know this chef. His name is Scott Craig. I think it's going to be really good for you guys to work together. And so the day of the career fair came, I was going to go talk to Chef Scott and kind of make the introduction. And so I walk up to his table and introduce myself. And he's like, oh, hey, Chef Rudy, he came and he already told me about you. Here, fill out an application. And so while I'm sitting there at the booth filling out applications, he's just taking everybody else's resumes. And so I was like, wow, okay. And so I ended up doing my internship with Chef Scott and then came back to do my second year of culinary school. And I learned so much from him that summer. And so I wanted to tell Chef Speckamp, and I went looking for him, and he wasn't there. He was sick, and he ended up passing away a
Oh
few weeks
no.
later. So I never got to fully thank him for everything that he did. He passed away unexpectedly, and it was something that was super hard for me and my classmates. So ended up working for Chef Scott for 3 years after I graduated culinary school. And so then at the end of my time working with Chef Scott after Culinary Olympics and everything, last day he told me the full story about how Chef Beckant came and talked to him before the career fair and he said, hey, I have this student. You guys don't realize it at the time, but she's going to be really good for you and you're going to be really good for her and you guys just don't realize it yet.
Oh, wow.
And so such like a cool bond and like full circle moment to be able to have because Chef Speckamp was also a mentor for Chef Scott. So Chef Scott had worked with him back before he worked at the Culinary Institute of America and everything. And so kind of just have that full circle moment where it's multiple levels of mentorship, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
is something that's super special and something I definitely don't take for granted.
I know you teach
So,
classes at Plum's Cooking Company, but working at a culinary school, is that something you ever think you'll do, or do you just kind of like teaching more like what you're doing now?
I mean, you never know what the future holds. There's so many things that I said I wasn't going to do in my career and then ended up doing. For example, always said, I'm never going to open my own restaurant. This is never going to happen. And here I am working on opening up my own restaurant, and I absolutely love it. So I would just say never. I think for me, teaching cooking classes at Plums is so much fun because you get to share your passion with other people and it's such a low intensity environment, you know, like you're just getting the chance to cook and have fun and share stories and bond over food and create memories. And for some people, it's a core memory for them that they get from
Yeah.
food. And so I think that's why I like teaching cooking classes at Plum so much. I do love having the opportunity to give back And something that I've been doing is I've been involved with the Pro Start program for the state of South Dakota and at the national level, really just trying to give back and help the organization that helped me so much. I'm actually one of the featured chefs in their new edition of the textbook that just came out.
Ooh.
And that's nationwide, which is it's so insane because that has my story in it. And just thinking from that, like if I can just impact one person by my story to help them decide that they want to be in this career and know all the different things about it, and that, hey, if I do take this class, like I can go somewhere, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just something I think, something too that one chef who I worked for, something that she told me is that the whole point of teaching somebody and working with somebody is to eventually have them be better than you. You want them to be better than you. If you're teaching and cooking with people and you're just thinking, I'm not going to tell them everything that I know to help make them better because I need to be the best, because I'm worried I need to have the highest competitive advantage, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You know, you should be confident in your abilities and what you can do and still be able to have that confidence, but not have it turn into cockiness, but also just be able to share things with others
Yeah,
too.
like keeping the ego in
So,
check. That's But I feel
exactly.
like that is
Yeah.
the stereotype that a lot of these chefs get is, that their ego is too big and no one will ever be better. But I mean, I like your perspective better, obviously. That makes more sense.
Yeah, no, and there's definitely times where I can get a little bit too big-headed, but I've been so lucky to have mentors that keep me grounded, you know, and something too that I have as a chef is imposter syndrome. And especially since I've done all these amazing things, and this was something that the head chef for the Bocuse team, he'd tell me, he's like, you're just one of these days you're going to think, well, did I really do this? Was I really the right person to do this? And all of the best chefs who I've talked to who have been really successful, they all have had imposter syndrome and struggle with it. And some of them say it never goes
Hmm.
away. And so for me, even though it's something that isn't always the best, it's not like I sit here and I freeze up and I'm like, oh man, I can't do this because was this really it? And if XYZ would have happened. But it's definitely something where I know, okay, if I'm going through this in my head, I'm on the right track. Like I'm staying
Yeah.
humble. If you ever stop asking yourself if you're good enough, that means you've quit learning and quit trying to grow.
That's a good
So,
point. When you said the things you can control are time and temperature or things like that teachers told you that you
yeah.
remember. I had a teacher in high school, Mrs. Hazel, that she always said learning for life. She was like, don't just learn this for a test, learn it for life. So like when people and there are a
Oh,
few
that's
things like
good.
that she said that I still remember and I'm like, she'd be so proud. So, so
Oh,
it is kind of true. Like there is so much we learn in school that we do just memorize it for the test, but there are a few nuggets that stay in there for longer than that. So,
yeah, that's better. My high school teacher said, be good, and if you can't be good, then don't get caught. That way better advice is like in high school than I was getting. That's, but yeah.
I I mean that's also good advice. So,
Yeah.
okay, so working at some of these fancier places, I love some celeb gossip or anything. So, who's like the most notable or famous person that you've cooked for or served or
Yeah,
something?
so yeah, where I did my externship at, it was at a country club outside of Washington, D.C. So there would be a lot of people in government and everything. And so one day in the pool canteen, which is where I was at, Chief Justice Roberts came in, ate there.
Ooh,
So him, yeah, it's been a lot of at the French Laundry one time too. Leonardo DiCaprio came in on Valentine's Day, so that
with
was
his like
kind of
20-year-old
funny. But
girlfriend that he was going to get rid of in 6 months or something.
I mean, you never know. You never know. I want to say too
Did you? And I know you
much.
guys,
So,
I know
but
you guys have to stay professional, but Leonardo DiCaprio has a piece of my childhood with like Titanic and stuff. It would be so hard for me not to be like, hi, Mr. DiCaprio. I just, and I know you're not supposed to do that, but have you ever been tempted to just fangirl a little bit with somebody?
oh, honestly, I think for me it's been more so celebrity chefs, or not celebrity chefs, but just like really well-renowned chefs. For example, because that was what was really cool for my time on the Bocuse team is I got to meet and work with a lot of really cool chefs. Thomas Keller, that's how I met him, was by that experience. Or even to just traveling to different competitions, different places, or doing different events. Because I've met some really cool chefs like Naisha Arrington. She's one who I respect. She's one of the judges on Next Level Chef.
Okay.
I've also met Gavin Kaysen, who has restaurants in Minneapolis. He's somebody who his story I can relate to a lot. He's definitely an inspiration, or even to like Alain Ducasse. He's a really famous French chef, and he came to the French Laundry one day, and so we all got to meet him and take a picture with him. I think those are the moments that have meant the most to me because these are chefs who have paved the way for me with different
Hmm.
techniques and things like that, you know?
Speaking of celebrity chefs, and maybe, I mean, this could be a controversial question, but who do you think is like the most overrated chef that is celebrity
Oh,
status?
geez. Oh my.
I just thought of that.
I'm gonna get like a cease and desist letter or something, or I'm gonna get like, I don't know, somebody's gonna slide into my DMs and be like, I can't believe you just said this, but I don't know. It's one of those things where it's kind of like you said with different people. You can tell who is in it for the right reasons and who's not, or who's more authentic or who's not. So it's definitely one of those things where you hear different things in the industry and your reputation follows you everywhere. A lot of
Hmm.
people know a lot of people. It's like this person knows this person, and then you've worked for this person.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah,
that's a very,
can I take the political
yeah, like you
answer and
don't
not
have to
like
actually
answer?
name anybody.
Like, I don't want to trash people, you know, I really don't.
No, because, as someone that does watch a lot of Food Network or even Great British Baking Show, when I first started watching Great British Baking Show, I had to look up, I don't know a lot of British chefs, but like Paul Hollywood, Mary Berry's the one that started on there. I was like, why do I care what these people do? Like, I had to like just kind of look up who they were, what they did, and Prue that's on there now, like she's earned a Michelin star, and so it's kind of cool to see,
Yeah.
but I've heard people talk smack about, like Guy Fieri, like, well, what a lame, like he doesn't actually know anything. But I'm like, well, the man's just counting his money, so I don't think he cares what you think.
Yeah, it's one of those things like until you actually meet them, I just feel like you can't really give a good opinion because from what one person's
Yeah,
experiences, yours might be different.
yeah,
And yeah.
I get that. What's one kitchen tip or trick that you think every home cook should know?
Yeah, so for me, I actually just showed this today in the cooking class I had earlier. Microplaning citrus. A lot of people, they'll hold the zester and they'll zest it over, but actually, if you flip the microplane backwards and hold the citrus and you just move the citrus in circles, you get the peel off way better and faster without making a mess and having it go everywhere. But then you also, it's way easier to not go too deep into the pith of the fruit, which is what makes it bitter. It can make it bitter
Yeah.
if you put too much of the pith in. So that's like my favorite kitchen tip and trick to share.
I actually, when I was well, it was probably a couple years ago now, I used to just use my cheese grater, like the one side, if I needed to zest something, the smaller side, which was not an actual zest side. It was just what I had. So one of the last times I was at IKEA, I was like, I'm going to buy an actual like microplane. And then I've only used it twice, but I have one. So,
Yeah, I mean I use it a lot.
yeah.
I love it. I love using fresh citrus.
What would you say is your signature dish?
So part of my restaurant concept is I'm going to have one dish that stays the same on the menu all the time, always going to start the meal, and everything else is going to be different. And so for me, that is going to be a take on chicken and dumplings. That's one of the things that my grandma taught me how to make growing up, or it's something she'd make a lot for our family for special occasions. And so I'm going to have a take on chicken and dumplings. That's just going to be fine dining elevated, and you'll have to wait and see what it looks like.
Tease.
So,
What a tease.
yeah.
Being from the Midwest, we're like meat and potatoes kind of people. And sometimes when you go to a fancier restaurant, people complain like, "Oh, it barely looks like food," or "I'm paying all this money for a bite." I don't even know what my question is. What is it worth it, or like do you even think that's kind of overrated, or how do you feel about, cuz you're saying your restaurant's going to be a fine dining restaurant. So can we expect that kind of thing where it's just like dots on a plate and everything's like you know what I mean? Like what's your take on all of that, or how fancy is fine dining to you?
Yeah, so for me, working at the French Laundry, that was like the highest level of fine dining that it could go. Everything was super intense. small bites, very multiple courses, and the food was definitely at a way higher price
Mm-hmm.
point, $400 plus per
Damn.
person, which is fine because that's amazing. That's what people want, and there's a market for it. And for me, I think too, is a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, you're able to be a team assistant for Bocuse d'Or and you've worked in this place and done this. So is your food going to be like this person's? And I think for me, it's definitely been finding my own style and then just accepting it and knowing that that's me and not trying to sit here and be like everybody else. And so for me, my concept, it's going to be a take on fine dining. I call it approachable fine dining, where it's very much not going to be at that high price point, but it's going to be about $150 a person for food for 5 to 7 courses, and definitely going to be some intensity in things. A big thing too that I've just learned as I've kept cooking and being in this industry is that sometimes you don't want to have to work like the 12 plus hours to make one component for a dish, or some stuff it's really intense, and really precise. Where for me, it's about having this balance of work life balance. That's something that's been huge for me because I've just been going, going, going. And it's something that I never thought I would be at the point where I'd be thinking about that. So it's going to be approachable fine dining. It's still going to be that higher, fancier sort of plating style, but not necessarily what you'd think when you think of normal fine dining. Like if you look at pictures from the French Laundry and everything, and then when you see my food, you'll be like, okay, there's some differences. It's basically taking the techniques and things I've learned from everywhere I've worked and then kind of putting my own twist on it and just having fun. Like I love to have fun with
Yeah.
food. So for me, that's kind of a huge
And even
thing.
at first, when you said like 150-ish, I was like, ooh, yeesh. But 5 to 7 courses, then you got me back because I was like, well, it's more than just,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? It's an experience
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I think that's a thing
Hmm.
Americans don't always get
Yeah.
either. I have a friend that lives in France, and even the way he talks about how they do lunch at work, where he was like, no, it's a break. We take an hour, 2 hours,
Hmm.
where like in America, I would much rather just take 15 minutes and then be able to leave early. I don't want to take my whole
Yeah.
hour, but I
Yeah.
do think this European thing of it's an experience. You're there for hours. You don't just like eat and run, or we're not used to
Hmm.
that kind of approach.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where with me, with the location and the vibe and experience I'm trying to create, I really want people to feel like they've just paused. Everything's on pause. You feel like you're in a completely different space. Like you're just sitting there, you're in the moment and you're enjoying things. And something too for me with the price point, I know I'm not going to be everybody's price point. There's still plenty of people in the Midwest who won't spend more than $20 on food at a restaurant. And that's
Yeah.
fine because I don't have to cater to everybody. I'm not here to be, okay, I'm going to make this one specific type of food for you. And okay, then I'm going to have this for you. And okay, then it's going to be high end. That's too exhausting. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's one of those things where I definitely know my audience. I know my people who I have to reach. And there's so many people who've been so receptive about my idea. Another big thing about the price point is knowing too that something that's been really big for me is creating local partnerships. And so that's something that I've been back in South Dakota for a little bit more than a year, but I've been able to meet so many amazing people who are local business people who products I'm going to incorporate. For example, I have fun ones too. Like I have a local person, Matthew Stewart. He's going to make custom plates for me for my
Oh,
restaurant.
fun.
So stuff like that you wouldn't find. Or I know a tea sommelier, she's going to create a custom blend for me for tea and kind of make my tea list. I have people who do eggs like Stephanie, who owns Fruit of the Coop in
Hmm.
Brandon. It's definitely just making these partnerships. Over the weekend, I just talked to somebody who she does microgreens, and her microgreens are amazing, and she's located in Iowa. I mean, it's just building all these local partnerships and knowing that the price point of my food, it's not just for food. You're not just paying it for just like some random stuff that's put together. It's stuff that's been thought out for intentionality, for
Hmm.
seasonality, with local people who are working so hard to make something that they're so proud of and that they want to serve people. And so for that, sometimes you do have to pay the money
Yeah.
for it. And also another thing in the industry is a lot of times cooks and kitchen staff, they are severely underpaid. And that's something I've noticed, especially being back here in South Dakota. So many people treat people that work in the kitchen like it's just nothing and that it's just easy. And so they don't get compensated the way that they should. And that's something too that in my restaurant, I'm going to change. It's going to be counter service. And so it's going to be this nice big open kitchen. You're going to be able to watch us cook every step of the way. And the people who cook with me, we're the ones that are going to be serving you and spieling you and refilling your water and getting you beer and wine and everything. So that way I have people who are going to be making an hourly wage cooking and they're proud of what they make and they get to share it with you, but then also get tips so that they're having a much better livable
Oh, that's a
wage
fun.
than they'd normally
Yeah, that's a
get.
different kind of setup. Does the open kitchen thing, does that make you nervous at all? That we can see what's going on, or like if you have a little tiff with the staff member. Like one time even I was at Taco John's and a couple people literally were like kind
Yeah.
of arguing. Like you could see it because it's kind of open behind the counter,
Yeah.
And we were it was like busy lunchtime, so does that ever make you nervous that you can't hide?
I like having an open kitchen because I feel like it keeps you so accountable. It keeps you accountable on cleanliness and then also just accountable on how you treat others and present yourself. Something too at just places I've worked, it's knowing that a lot of people that would eat at the French Laundry, they'd want to come back and see the kitchen after they
Oh.
ate. And so you'd always be keeping the kitchen pristine and just knowing that you're presenting yourself in a way where, hey, there's going to be people coming through and I don't want to be the person that's saying something disgusting or mean or rude and kind of just keeping that. It's one of those things too, if you're put in stressful situations as a chef, you learn kind of how to handle yourself. Something that so many people compare being a chef to is like a duck. You're calm on the surface, but underneath you're paddling to stay afloat, you
Yeah.
know? So it's definitely something that I have. I mean, do I expect people to be perfect? No, nobody can ever be perfect, but it's definitely going to be a different environment than
Yeah.
most people have seen
I also
before in a
I
positive
kind of
way.
like the open kitchen idea. Like even sometimes when I get sad at the bar, I end up like not even talking to my friends because I'm just like watching everything that's going on. Like it's kind of a show, Like, but I
Yeah.
remember one time I took a friend of mine to this place in Sioux City, and I mean, it's just like a burrito place, but they have kind of an open kitchen, and you could see the guy cutting up the steak or whatever for like the burritos, and she was so grossed out.
Mhm.
She hated seeing it, and I was like, but doesn't that make you feel better because you see that like he's not sneezing on it, or you know what I mean? But she was like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to see that. Like she was just so grossed out. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I suppose they just
Yeah.
have your back to the count to it then if you don't want to watch.
No, and for me too, like at my restaurant, when it's service time. So I'm never gonna plot a cutting board at 7 p.m. at night and just start breaking down a
Yeah.
tenderloin or a New York strip or anything just for fun. Definitely with having a successful restaurant service and just running a restaurant, it's having a prep list, knowing your pars, knowing how much you need, but then also having that deadline. So for me, I would be the ideal goal is if we open at 5 p.m., be done prepping at 4:30. And at that point, you're just wiping down, you're grabbing whatever pots, pans, bowls, utensils you're gonna need. So then at 5 o'clock when it's showtime, like we go and we just are plating and doing the final cooking for everything. So
So before I asked you what like your signature dish was, or kind of your favorite signature, whatever. So what is your least favorite dish to cook? You just hate it. Like,
Um, I think for me, so if I don't like something, it's usually a texture thing or I have cooked it way too much. And so for me, that's a lot of seafood things. Like for me, I don't like oysters because I don't like the texture.
looks like
So you're
snot. I
never
don't get
gonna see
it.
me at home just buying, like you're never gonna see me going to, because in California at Whole Foods, there'd be one day where they would have oysters on sale and people would go and buy oysters and then just shuck them at home and eat them. And I'm like, yeah, you're never gonna see me doing that. Or another one for me is lobster, just because it's something that I've had to cook so much where just the smell of it, I'm like, yeah, I can't eat this, but I wouldn't say that there's a dish that I don't like making.
Gotcha.
There isn't something where if somebody's like, oh, you have to make this, nothing that I can think of off of the top of my head. But I'm sure something will come to me one of these days and then I'll let you know. I'll text you and be like, oh, so I don't like doing this. Just found that out. But
I'm not a big seafood person either, so I will accept those answers because those things also. And lobster to me, and even like crab legs and stuff, it just looks like a lot of work to eat. Like I don't want to work that hard to eat. So-
Yeah, and it's not like I'm a big seafood where I'm like, no seafood. Like, I do like eating fish and stuff like that. It's just been very hard for me the past couple years because for the competition team I was on, we did have to try a lot of seafood because for both competitions we had to do, it was seafood based platters. So I would be trying so much. I tried and ate so much seafood in such a short amount of time where to this day I can really only eat sushi or poke bowls. Like if it's raw, I can occasionally eat a seared scallop, but if not, it's like I have to stay away because I've just tasted it too much. So it's been about 2 years now, 2.5 years. So I'm really hoping in another 2.5 years this will just be gone and I won't have eaten it so I can just start eating fish again. I've tried. I really do
yeah.
try.
Talking about my French friend, he hates what Americans have done to croissants. He hates
Oh,
he
really?
hates that there's a croissant sandwich or that we make croissant, like just how we morph foods together or like the cronut, like things like that. Like, do you have any weird food combo or especially in America, we these crazy food destined, I don't even know how to explain it. They'll make the biggest thing you've ever seen or
Like,
like, is there anything like that that just annoys you where you're like, oh, why are they doing this to food?
yeah, for a while on social media, the trend would be to make blue
Oh,
pasta. And it would be them dyeing the pasta dough blue just so it would look cool aesthetically. And to me, that's just something I can't get behind. I really can't. Like, I can't get behind that.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I tried that ravioli of yours that's green, but that's because of the like spinach or something, right? Yeah, yeah.
Spinach. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh,
Natural.
and it was
Yeah.
really good, by the way. What advice would you give to somebody that, I mean, you've given some tips throughout this whole conversation, but what advice would you give to someone who wants to pursue a career in this business?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing I would say is that there are multiple paths to success. You don't have to go to culinary school. Culinary school is great if that's what you want, but also too, people forget that cooking is a trade. So you can literally just go and start learning things in a restaurant. If you don't want to go to culinary school, but you think that you want to cook and cooking's what you want to do, find a chef that you really like their style of food and that their ethos and everything that they're doing, and then go try to get a job and work for them. That's what I've told a lot of people too. I'm like, you don't have to go to culinary school or even to something I think that was so hard for me is after leaving the French laundry, it was something I had to grapple with where I was too worried about what other people were going to think. I'm like, well, people are going to think I'm crazy that I just left the French laundry and I'm back in Sioux Falls. And right now my food is more simpler just because I don't have my kitchen yet and equipment to be able to do things, or if I am doing meals for people at Plums, it's for people to make food that they can cook at home. So I'm not going to make the stuff that I've learned how to make at the French Laundry or other places like
Yeah.
that. So I think too, it's just learning that you don't have to work in a three Michelin super high fine dining restaurant to have a successful career. There are some people who they want to work at a country club and be executive chef of the banquets for a country club, and that's totally fine. Or they want to work in a hotel or they want to go corporate or be a recipe developer. There's so many different outlets in this industry. So just find what you like best and don't be afraid to try everything because that's something for sure I had to do in my career. I've worked in just plain restaurants. I've worked in a Forbes triple five star resort. I've worked in country clubs. I've worked at fine dining. I've seen it all. And I've realized that fine dining is definitely what I like the best. So that's what I'm going to pursue. But I'm not going to knock somebody who is super happy flipping
Yeah.
burgers because that's amazing. Not people want that
Yeah.
too. It's
And that's like
yeah,
going back to Food Network Guy Fieri, like diners, what is it? Diners, dives, and diners, drive-ins, and I
diners,
don't know why I
drive-ins,
couldn't
and
think of it.
dives.
Triple D, whatever.
Yeah,
Like those people are making
yeah,
really good food, and a lot of them are, the more approachable stuff. But going back to when you said ingredients that will take like 12 hours to make, some of those places even were like, oh, we let this sit for 4 days, and then like some of those meats and stuff, they do a
hmm
lot to those. So I can't imagine trying, like you said, the timing
Yeah.
of it all.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have a like kitchen disaster you could tell us about when just everything went wrong or
Ooh.
something exploded? Did you start a fire?
Yeah,
Is
no,
there any
everybody
fires
gets
involved?
it. No. I guess the one where it's me in a kitchen probably thinking about one of the worst things that has probably happened to me is I was in high school and on the menu there was something called a seafood salad for Lent. So basically they would make this ceviche where it was with shrimp, like little mini shrimp and scallops and all this different stuff. And I had to grab it from the walk-in cooler. And so the walk-in cooler, it didn't have any windows, so and it's in this big hall where people would walk up and down all the time. And so you would either have to knock with your like knock before you'd open the door. So you knock loud enough so people could hear if they're in the way, they move, and then you open the door. And so I tried to knock and I was had a bunch of stuff, and sometimes you can knock with your foot and kind of like kick the bottom of the door. I accidentally kicked it too hard and just opened it, and then made somebody drop this big container of this seafood salad that had all the scallops and the shrimp in it. And it was a big money mistake. Like the executive chef, he yelled at me and he's like, "You don't know how many hundreds of dollars that was." And I started crying. I felt so terrible because also too it was ceviche, so there's a lot of oil in it too. So then the floor was
Yeah,
like super
that's going to be hard to
oily
clean
and
up. Yeah.
definitely, yeah, definitely the worst. Like when you said disaster to me, that's the first thing that pops into my head. But there's definitely been times when I've burnt things, you forget to set a timer in the oven and then you realize whatever you're toasting is burnt. You scored sauces, there's stuff that happens, or I would have to make mashed potatoes every day when I would work one station at the country club. And one time I way over salted my mashed potatoes and then had to hurry up and steam off more potatoes to mix in so they won't be too salty. And, there's stuff that happens to everybody, but it's not about the mistake you make. It's all about how you recover from it. And that's something that, especially when I was a younger cook, I would let those mistakes beat me up. Like I would be in a bad mood for the rest of the day, but it's not very fun to live your life that way, always mad at yourself if you make a mistake. So it's something that I definitely learned to grow through and past with time.
Hmm.
So
As a chef, you're cooking all day. Do you actually come home and like cook a meal for yourself, or do you just have like a peanut butter and jelly and you're like, that's good enough? Like,
I go through periods where I don't feel like cooking anything and then I nothing sounds good to eat where I'm just like I don't want to eat anything. And then an hour later I'll be like, "Oh, you know what? I'm really craving nachos," or something super random. But for the most part when I'm at home, it's very simple cooking. So it'll be salads, or I have been eating a lot of like nuts lately. It's been something that's been very easy, especially for me with I'm so busy with my schedule right now and trying to make sure I prioritize my own health, and eating properly is something I definitely have been focusing on. So sometimes it's just eating like nuts, like almonds, cashews, something like that, where it's giving me like protein content and energy instead of just so many people they'll drink energy drinks or
yeah.
just drink a bunch of caffeine. And I really try not to do that and kind of have this balance, but it's definitely a back and forth because I'll be really good for a few months and then it's just like I'm so sick of looking at food, don't want to do anything, don't want to eat, don't know what I
Yeah.
want.
Have you ever, when you were mentioning like proteins and all that kind of stuff, have you ever made a meal plan for somebody or like nutritional plans for somebody? Or is that not really your vibe?
Yeah, I haven't had any jobs where I've had to count calories or anything like that or figure out if this is enough protein content. I've had jobs like, for example, at the country club, I would have to make a lot of vegan, vegetarian food. That sort of became my specialty. It's something that more members were requesting. But the biggest thing is it's just if somebody tells me, like, hey, well, I can't do gluten, can you make me something? Making them something that actually tastes delicious, and using the proper ingredients and everything. That's kind of something like right now I have a client who they do not eat gluten or dairy. And so I've been making gluten-free, dairy-free frozen meals for them so they can just have something to put in the oven and they don't have to worry about it because going out to eat especially it's super hard for them to find stuff that fits their dietary preferences.
Yeah,
So it's more so that than being like, hey, this is how many calories in a serving of this.
gotcha. Is there a food or maybe a trend or just something in the culinary world that you kind of pretend to like or go with because everybody else seems to love it? Is there anything you've had to kind of fake liking just because it was the it thing at the time or anything like that?
I think sometimes chefs will use truffle oil, and truffle oil is fine if you get high quality truffle oil, but if you get the not as quality truffle oil, you can definitely tell. And that's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, truffle oil, this is great. And in my head, I'm like, oh, no, no, not more truffle oil. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things too. I cook food the way that I want to cook in terms of if it's me planning a menu or something, but if somebody has a dietary preference or a request and they're like, hey, I really want truffle oil on something, I'm not going to say no just because it's my
Right.
ego getting in the way. I'm always going to give people what they want. But I'm also not just going to jump on the bandwagon that everybody else jumps
Yeah.
on.
Truffles in general are one of those things where they just put it on anything to make it sound fancier. Truffle fries, truffle
You can
this, truffle
get
that.
real
Yeah.
deal truffles. Yeah, like when you get the real thing, it's amazing and you're like, okay, this is worth it. But when you get the imposter truffles, that's when you're like, okay, this is just being overused and this is too much and not the real deal. Like once you have the real deal, you never want to go back. That's for sure.
Speaking, you said something about like, if someone asks for it, I'm not going to not put it in just because of my ego or whatever. There was an episode of Below Deck where Adam, he was kind of a douche. The guest didn't like onions, and he put onions in the food anyway because he was like, I'm going to show them. Have you ever done anything like that?
No, just because you never know if somebody has an allergy or not. There are some times though, so there was one time when working at a restaurant and we made a squid ink sort of paella, but it was with risotto. And so we made a homemade lobster stock for that. And we had somebody who say that they were super allergic to lobster. And so we were like, okay, well, we're sorry, you can't have this dish. The risotto's pre-cooked with lobster. And then it wasn't that they were allergic to lobster, they just really didn't like lobster and didn't want to say that they didn't like lobster. So they're like, no, I'm only allergic to the body. Since it's just the stock, I'm okay. Like sometimes you'll get weird stuff like that, but I just feel like as a chef, you just have such a high level of integrity. Like if somebody says they can't eat garlic or they don't like garlic, I'm not going to throw garlic in just because, it's just that's not how I do
You can
things.
throw all the garlic in mine if it. I love
Yeah. I'll go extra garlic next time I cook for you. Even if it's a dessert, I'm just gonna throw in so much garlic just for
Okay, maybe
you.
not for that, but as a Midwesterner, but also a fine dining chef, how do you feel about ranch? Does it go with
I
everything?
love ranch. I mean, so growing up, my dad, he only eats steak if it's well done.
Mm.
So before I was old enough to cook my own steak and we'd have steak for dinner, I would douse my steak in ranch because that was the only way to make it taste good, you know? So for me though, I think it's just using it in different ways. Like for example, I'll make buffalo chicken croquettes and I'll take like ranch seasoning mix and toss that in the croquettes.
That
I
sounds
don't think I
delicious.
just need to put ranch dressing on everything. I think it's just using a fun and creative way with it. You don't just have to, oh, here's some chicken tenders with
Yeah.
ranch, like I think it's just learning how to do fun things with it.
Obviously, cleanliness is important, but when you're cooking at home, do you believe in the 5-second rule?
Honestly, I no. Like I don't. Just because for me it's just so ingrained in me because I've been to just nope.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I
Yeah.
totally will eat stuff
Yeah,
off the floor.
no.
I'm not afraid.
No, also too, I do have two cats, and so they walk all along the floor. So that's just another big reason too why I'm like, okay, I'm just not gonna risk it. My life is worth more than this one thing that dropped on the ground.
When you are invited to a potluck, does everybody else just feel like they can't show you their cooking? Like, do you intimidate people at potlucks?
I don't try to. I think what happens is if it's somebody's first time having a potluck and I'm there, they think that I'm just going to be a snob with all the food. Or even if I go out to eat, people think I'm going to be super picky, super particular. I'm only going to get certain things. I'm going to be upset. And for me, I am able to have a capacity to turn my brain off and to just, you know, eat food and kind of just be in the moment. And I mean, yeah, you'll pick up things that you notice, like, hey, for service, maybe they should have done this, or maybe they shouldn't have done this, but it's not going to affect like how I tip them or anything, or anything. It's kind of just being able to put that to the side. But that's something my grandma, she'd say all the time when I'd be coming home from culinary school and everything. She's like, "Well, I don't want to cook for you anymore because you're just a better cook than me," or anything like that. But it's definitely keeping humility. It's something that I've really always made sure that I'm not trying to act like I'm the greatest person in the room, because I feel once I start acting and thinking like that, then my food and my technique is just never going to keep
Hmm.
evolving. I'm just going to be stuck, and I never want to be
I was
stuck.
just gonna ask if your like mom and grandma still cook for you, or like when you go home, are you the one that always has to cook now, or because I bet there's still some foods
Yeah,
that
so
you're still like, no, I want you to cook it. I like the way you
mhm.
make it, like that kind of home feel.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so my grandma, she had some health issues during my time when I was on the Bocuse team and everything, and ended up actually getting diagnosed with like memory loss
Oh,
issues. And so she's in a nursing home, so she doesn't really cook anymore. She'll still come over to family gatherings and stuff. Most of the time, my parents are pretty considerate. And so they'll be like, hey, if we buy the ingredients and help clean, will you cook? And, or for example, for Christmas with me and my mom, we kind of tag teamed it. So she cooked the ham and then I cooked all the side
oh,
dishes or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
On the flip side, have you ever been to a potluck where you tried something somebody brought and you were like, "Damn, this is good!" Like,
I mean, I feel like that's always gonna happen. I'm not gonna, I can't think of like one thing in particular where I tried it, but I'm like, oh, this is
yeah, yeah,
great, like, and it's one of those things. If it's good food, it's good
right,
food, and you don't
right.
question it.
I love me a good Food Network competition show. Love Chopped. My brother loves Cutthroat Kitchen, Iron Chef, all that kind of. Would you ever, or Top Chef, would you ever go on a show like that, or is that just not something you care about doing?
I can't see it being in the cards for me. So after my time on the 2023 Bocuse d'Or team, it was crazy just kind of getting back into the real world and a job and everything. And that was such a high level of competition that I was able to be a part of and like help our team achieve some really amazing things. It's just gone. That drive for competition, it's gone. Like, I will help other people compete, but if somebody's like, you should go on Chopped, I'm gonna run the other way. Like, I'm gonna be like, nope, I'm good. It's one of those things where I'm definitely, if there's other people who are interested in competing or something like that, I'll definitely help them out. But I'm no Iron Chef, no Top Chef, no Cutthroat
Yeah.
Kitchen. Like, it's definitely just not in the cards for me, especially too just because you aren't always in control of the way that you're portrayed or the final cut. And so I've heard stories, like I had a friend in culinary school. She said I believe it was her aunt who was on a baking show, and they made it on TV look like she turned up this other person's oven on purpose and like burned
Oh
her cookies or
no.
something. And that never happened. But she was getting like nasty letters in the mail saying how terrible of a person she is for that. And so for me too, it's just one of those things, just because in this industry, just trying to like move things forward and be the example of what you want to see. It's just not something I could see myself doing, just because at the end of the day, you're never in full control of how you're going to
Yeah, I
be
get that.
perceived or shown. And that's something I care about.
Um, so I know you're into the fine dining stuff, but what is your favorite fast food? Like if you're gonna hit up a drive-through, where is it gonna
Oh,
be?
yeah, so when I lived in Charlotte, I lived there for 3 years. There was this fast food place. It's only kind of in the South. Like, I've only seen it in North Carolina. Maybe there's some in South Carolina. I don't remember, but it was this place called Cookout. And it was amazing because it was open super late, but it was also super cheap. And they would have like these little platters that you could build. And this was the only place where you could get like a chicken quesadilla and then pick one of your sides to be chicken nuggets or like mini corn dogs or stuff like that. So this was like your ultimate, and it was super cheap too. And they had a bunch of different milkshake flavors, so you could really just kind of like mix and
Yeah.
match. And that would be my ultimate, like, if somebody decides to put a cookout in Sioux Falls. That would be my favorite. Or if anything, I just really miss Trader Joe's because living in Charlotte and in Napa, I would go to Trader Joe's all the time. And I love some of their stuff.
Um,
So that's like the other thing. I know it's not fast food,
right. I was
but
just in Omaha yesterday. My brother lives right outside Omaha, and I played volleyball in a fundraiser tournament
okay.
with him, and we lost. We were out pretty early, and I was like, good, I have time to go to Trader Joe's. So I just went yesterday.
And you didn't tell me, you didn't want to bring me, and I like Venmo you or something. You could have brought me back some of these things I've been missing so much.
Well, and it's,
Like their frozen butter chicken, one of
oh,
my
okay.
favorite frozen entrees. I would eat it for breakfast sometimes because I wouldn't feel like eating breakfast food, but I would eat butter chicken at like 6 o'clock in the morning because it was from Trader
One of
Joe's. So
my
that's good.
favorite,
You could have brought me back butter
that's
chicken.
funny. One of my favorite things, and I bought like 3 or 4 bags of them, is the chicken lime wontons. Or chicken cilantro wontons. I don't know.
Oh,
They're
okay.
delicious. I got a couple new things this time to kind of try, but I really like their chunky guacamole too. Like that's
Yeah.
good stuff. And
Oh yeah, they're dark chocolate orange sticks. They're like a candy. That's one of my favorite things. Or they also have an horchata flavored ice cream
oh,
to die for.
nice.
So good.
I know that some chefs, they being a pastry chef is kind of baking is different than cooking and things like that. But you did pastry somewhere, right? Like, don't you kind of do a little of it all?
I mean, with pastry chef by any means, but I understand recipes and techniques enough to be able to execute things. But I wouldn't say that I'm
Okay.
just this expert pastry chef by any means, but I can do enough to get by. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Especially just being in some of the environments, you really learn to be thoughtful and think things all the way through and learn things and understand why things go into a recipe. So once you have that knowledge, you can kind of just translate it to everything. What is it? I think the most, I don't know if you want to call it most baking thing I'm doing is this summer my little sister is getting married, and so I'm making her wedding
Oh,
cake.
that's
So that's the most, that's, and luckily she wants decorative flowers on top, so I'm not having to do a bunch of crazy piping work, but you're not going to see me piping this fancy border and all this or doing all this tempered chalk, but I can do enough to get by, where I can make some good dessert.
Speaking
So,
of baking, like I love the Great British Baking Show, and part of it isn't so much even I do like cooking shows, but I just think their accents and how their camaraderie is always fun to watch and whatever. But I am always these are home cooks, and some of the stuff they create looks. I mean, I didn't taste it, but some of just their decorative pieces, I'm like,
yeah.
what? Like crazy, but. I don't know
Yeah.
how I've never piped a thing in my life. Like I have no idea. They
Just
do
one
some
of those
amazing
things
stuff.
like you practice it. Cause no, I love watching
Yeah.
that show too because they're just so supportive of each other. Nobody's thrilled when somebody else goes home. They're all sad. It's not as cutthroat and competitive, which is something here I think like in
It's so
America. So
heartwarming.
many times people think that you have to be competitive, and it's like you don't have to be
Yeah.
as competitive as you think you have to be. Like you can be nice. Like it's
Yeah.
okay.
And I always watching that show too, it's like and even sometimes they'll be like, I can't believe I'm crying over a cake or whatever. And I'm at home like, oh,
Yeah.
cake too.
Yeah.
But
No, it was one of those things I would get upset about things, and one of the chefs who I worked with, he would tell me, he'd be like, April, it's just food. And I would get so upset. I'd be like, it's not just food. It's not, like this is my life. All intense. And now I'm just sitting here and I'm like, no, it is. It's just food.
yeah. And on that show a lot of times too, they're
Just
like,
food.
okay, I'll just try it again. Like just start over. I'll probably run out of time, but what am I gonna what
I'm
yeah.
gonna try, yeah.
I don't know how
Yeah.
they do those technicals though, where
Yeah.
like they literally get barely a recipe and it's just like make this thing. I couldn't do it. Like I
Yeah, it's just learning how to cook off of instinct. Like at the end of the day, that's what you're doing, which is something too. I can follow a recipe, but I also know how to cook off of instinct. Like you need a little bit of
hmm
both to be
I
really
remember
good in the kitchen.
when I
So
first moved out on my own, my grandma said something about, "Oh, do you know how to cook or how are you going to cook for yourself or whatever?" And I was like, "Well, I can follow directions. Like I don't think it's hard." So
yeah.
but I also grew up with parents that didn't like do everything for me. Like I had cooked some things, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? But sometimes I'll see these people and I don't know if they're doing it just for the views or what, but you'll see or even that worst cooks in America when some people literally don't know like a basic thing. I'm like, how do you live in
Yes.
the world? Like, I don't understand it. But
Yeah.
anyway, now I don't do this with everybody, but I thought this would be kind of fun to do like rapid fire this or that kind of thing with food, some food stuff.
Okay.
So are you ready? It's
Okay.
not hard. It's just kind of for fun. Are you ready?
Yeah. Let's
Okay.
do it. Let's do it.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
What do you think is the most overrated ingredient? I think we already kind of know it's the truffle, but is there anything else?
Yeah. People like, because it's only in season for a certain amount of time. Like when ramps are in season, people will go crazy, ramp
What's a
everything.
ramp?
That's one that I think will get overused when it's in season. I want to like say this right because I'm terrible with defining things. So let me refer to Google just so I don't mess this up. And then I say the wrong thing and then you have so many people like she doesn't know how to cook because it's one of those things, you know how it's like you think it in your head and then you say it
Yeah.
the wrong way. So it is wild leeks is what it says. It's only in eastern North American woodlands is where it's native to, and they grow from late April to May.
Okay.
So that's their only season. It's not all year round. So when ramps, that's your thing. It's like, okay, you gotta do pickled ramps, and then you gotta take the ramp tops and make a ramp oil, and then you just gotta put ramps on everything, and
And
then
this is,
go for it. I mean, they're
yeah. And
fun,
this is the first time
but
I
yeah,
even know what that is. So cool. What's your favorite
yeah.
midnight snack?
I really don't eat late at night because if I eat too late, then I don't sleep
Okay.
good. Like it's so bad. So like I'm done eating at 7 o'clock at night.
I need to
And I
stop
don't
eating
eat
at
it
7 o'clock
for
at
the rest
night, but then sometimes I'm like, what else do we have here? Okay. Your dream travel destination just for food.
Oh, I really want to go to Italy because to me that just sounds amazing.
I've been to Italy. I went to Venice because before it sinks, I wanted to see it, you know? And we stopped at kind of their version of a truck stop when we were driving through Europe. And I had some of the best pasta at a truck stop, basically. It was so good.
Wow, that's amazing.
What is one kitchen tool you can't live without?
I would say my chef's knife for
Okay.
sure.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Oh yes, all
Okay.
the time. I love pineapple
That
on
can be
pizza.
very controversial for some people. And I guess that was pretty much it. What is one ingredient that you couldn't live without? Like I know we talked about overrated ingredients, but what's one that
Mhm.
you like super like?
I love mushrooms. That's something that I love to cook with. It adds such a savoriness to dishes, whether it's for people who eat meat, people who are vegan or vegetarian. They add so much flavor. I could not live without mushrooms.
All right. So that concludes the rapid fire. Good job. And on Talking with Tasha, I'm at heart, a pop culture girly. So is there anything you're watching or reading or listening to that you want to recommend, or like what are you binge watching right
Oh,
now? Are you excited for a new movie coming out? Like anything
yeah.
like that?
I'm, I guess I'm kind of like, it's one of those things people don't think when they talk to me. They're like, what? But I really like, because just from some of my other coworkers and places, I actually really like watching the Marvel
Okay.
movies. So every time a Marvel movie comes out, like a new one, I'll have to go to the theater and I purposefully go by myself because I cannot go with other people and have them try and talk to me while I'm watching the movie. So that's something I think that a lot of people don't know about me, or else I really also Star Wars too. That was something where during COVID, where I finally got into it because so many of my coworkers were talking about The
Mm-hmm.
Mandalorian. And so I started watching like episode 4, 5, 6, did all the movies, and then did all the TV shows for Star Wars. So those are two things where,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So did you see Thunderbolts then? That new Marvel one?
I haven't gone to see it yet because these past couple of weeks I've been so busy with everything. With that one, I'm probably gonna have to wait until it's on Disney Plus. I don't think I'm gonna get to see it in the
And
theater,
I'm not a
but
huge
it's
Star
okay.
Wars buff, but I really liked The Mandalorian. I think that show kind of stands alone. I don't think you necessarily need to
Yeah,
know a ton about Star Wars to really like that show. Plus, Baby
no,
Yoda's so cute, and Pedro Pascal is also so cute. So,
yes. Oh yes, but yeah, Grogu, he's so cute. I'm like, I loved in the last season, I don't know if this is spoiler, but like Lizzo and her just like her character being obsessed with Grogu. I'm like, this is the best. This is what every person is in real life, and then they wrote
Yeah.
it in.
And
So
speaking of going to the movies, is there a way that you dress up your popcorn? Like how do you do movie theater popcorn? Do you do a lot of butter? Do you put like M&Ms in it? Or are you a popcorn person at all? How do you dress up your popcorn?
I just like extra butter. Yeah, just extra
Okay.
butter. That's about it. Nothing too
Oh,
crazy.
bummer. I was hoping you were like, I bring in my own seasoning packet or something. I don't know.
No, no. No, it's not. It's one of those things. So I tried watching the Meghan Markle show on Netflix, and in the very first episode, she's like, "Oh, well, let's get ready for my guest." And she takes a corn cob and puts it in the microwave to make her own popcorn, and then seasons it with like some truffle seasoning, and then gets all the popcorn off the cob or something and puts it in this little bag and ties it with a cute ribbon. And I'm like, nobody is doing this. Like, I'm not even doing this. Nobody's doing
I have bought those
so.
popcorn cob things at like a farmer's market before. They're kind of fun. Like to see it pop off the cob. But
Yeah.
yeah, not it's not gonna feed a crowd really. You know what I mean? Like you gotta like
No, and it wasn't. She just had like one friend. The story was like she had one friend who she's really good friends with coming over to visit. So it's to have something nice in like his guest room or whatever to be like, oh, this is a nice welcome. And what if he gets hungry at night? And here, have some truffle popcorn. So
sure, Jan. No, that's when I was on the radio, we would try to do fun topics every day, and every like we couldn't even guess what certain things would end up being very get people really talking. One time we got on the topic of movie theater popcorn or ways you dress up your popcorn because I like to put M&M peanut butter M&Ms in mine when it's still warm, and then the M&Ms get kind of like gooey, and then when you eat it, it's the salty and sweet together and stuff. And then people started texting in and they were like, I put Parmesan cheese and this and that. Like they had all these different
wow.
concoctions for
Okay.
popcorn. It was, who knew? People feel very strongly about popcorn. But anyway, that's pretty much all the questions I had. It's been, we've been chatting. We could go on, but I don't know. But
Oh
we have
yeah.
lives to get to. So do you want to let people know about like your pasta at Plums, your cooking classes, the events you do, the restaurant coming up, where to follow you, your website? Tell all the people all your
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, so I'm based in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and so you can find me on Instagram at april.l.john23. You can see everything that I'm doing there. I teach cooking classes at Plum's Cooking Company, and I also just launched a fresh pasta line with them. So you can go to Plum's website and order fresh pasta. I make two different types. I also make some that's gluten free. So if there's anybody who has allergies, it's a great option for them. And homemade pasta sauce. And so that's pre order only right now with pickup every Saturday at the Plum store. And then my restaurant is going to be called Darlene. That is my grandma's middle name. And so my goal is to take an old barn and turn it into a restaurant. And so if all things go the way that they've been going, hopefully here in 2027, I'll have my restaurant open.
Are you still doing like catering private events and stuff, or are you kind of backing off of that?
For right now, I'm kind of backing off of it. The pasta thing's been keeping me really busy, but people can always reach out. If I have time for it, I make time for it. I've been doing about two different things a month if it's been like making frozen entrees for somebody, doing a private dinner at their house.
You brought up the barn, so maybe we should talk about that. Did you always think it wanted to be in a barn, or you just found this barn and thought this is it?
So for me, basically the whole idea for the restaurant came from my time on the Bocuse team. So when my job was really ramping up in intensity, we were starting to work a lot more because we were getting closer to competition. That is when I found out that my grandma got diagnosed with like memory loss issues. And so for me, that was the driving force for why I wanted to win. She taught me so much, and just cooking with her, it's how I discovered I wanted to be a chef. And so I really wanted to give her one last good full circle memory before she started to forget everything. So for me, that was going to be helping my team win Bocuse d'Or, doing whatever it takes. And so I ended up getting ninth, which was still very impressive, still awesome. But I just always kind of felt like I needed to do more, wanted to do more, something for this legacy to like kind of keep going not just from me, but through the other chefs who have mentored me, you know? So that's how I created Legacy Hospitality. I knew it had to be in Sioux Falls, in my hometown, home state, from where it means so much to me. Originally, I thought it was going to be a much larger restaurant, like in downtown Sioux Falls. And then just being back and trying to find a location downtown, I just realized downtown is really oversaturated with restaurants. And so that's kind of when I'm like, okay, well, I want to do something completely different. Let me go and start my restaurant on the east side of Sioux Falls because there isn't really a lot of locally owned fine dining places there. And that's something a lot of people have been asking for. And then just like the idea for the barn and everything just came kind of organically, where I'm like, okay, cool. What if I wanted to do this? Because for me, I was thinking, I'm like, do I really want to do a 100 seat, like big restaurant? I think in my head, that's what I thought I had to do because that's what people expected me to
Mm-hmm.
do, you know, just from my past. And then I'm like, wait, I don't have to do what other
Right,
people
right.
think I should do. I need to do what's going to be best for me and what is going to make me happy. And so it was this idea for the barn and doing counter service and doing less covers a night. And then also having a retail aspect to it too, where if there's like a jam or a marinade that's on my menu, being able to package it and sell it to the general public. So for those people who don't necessarily want to meet that price point of $150 a person, they can buy a marinade or pickled item and still take a piece of Darlene home with
That's
them. That's just kind of how I came
that's
up with
smart.
it, you
Yeah.
know?
Or even like let's say they do come in for some
Yeah.
special occasion. They really liked something and then they try to replicate it at home or play around with it. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they can take it home.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. You think I'd be better at wrapping these things up, but is there anything is there anything else you want to say or that we didn't get to or something you're just dying to get off your chest before we go?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things I never thought I would be so happy and excited to be back in South Dakota. One of the things I told myself from like never things that you never say you're going to do and you end up doing. I'm like, after I left, I was like, I'm never going to come back to South Dakota. I'm never coming back. And clearly I'm back. I've been back and I really enjoy it. And it's just been so great to see how Sioux Falls and just the state of South Dakota in general supports small business and just how many people who have heard my story and hear what I'm trying to do, they've been so supportive. There hasn't been one person who's been like, you shouldn't do this. This is a terrible idea. You know, why would you want to do
Yeah.
this? And so that's something that's just been so refreshing. And there really is no place like home. Like, I'm so happy to be back. I'm so proud to be able to say that I'm from South Dakota and have gone to do all these things.
Yeah.
And yeah, now I'm back. I can't wait. I'm so excited to share with everybody all the things I've been working
Um
on.
but even when I tell people about CH Patisserie and how the guy that won Top Chef Desserts opened his shop here, they're like, "Why?" It's like cuz apparently
It's like,
yeah,
why
it's cool
not?
to be here and we like macarons as well.
No, and just people's approach and attitude towards food has changed so much since I was in high school. Because in high school, it was very much like, hey, this is just, we're going to eat our steak and potatoes and we're going to go
Yeah.
home. Where now it's kind of like there's enough of an audience and appreciation where people are like, no, I actually want to go out and enjoy a meal and try this different ingredient and understand why they decided to pair this with
Mhm.
this. And try different things. And so that's super exciting to have here because that was something why I said I would never come back is I just never thought that South Dakota could be ready for all the fun things that I wanted to do, you
Well, and I
know?
feel like Sioux Falls has a way of sucking you in because when I moved here back in '09, I said, I'll give it 2 years and I'm still here. So I don't know. It has a way of, does. I don't know. Something about this place sucks you in. Okay. I think that's it. I think we're done. Well, there you have it, kids. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Talking with Tasha. I want to thank Chef April Johnson for being a great guest and talking to us about her food and her concepts and teaching me a few things because I didn't know what a ramp was and teaching me how to make pasta. I want to thank you, the listener, for coming back and listening to Talking with Tasha over and over again. I really do appreciate it. For all things Talking with Tasha, you can listen on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Pandora, and at talkingwithtasha.com. If you'd like to hire me to do voice work, I'm on Fiverr. All of that as well is linked at talkingwithtasha.com, all my social media. If you'd like to email me, talkingwithtashapod at gmail.com. And like I said, April taught me how to make Chef April Johnson taught me how to make pasta, homemade pasta. That is on my Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, which is all linked at talkingwithtasha.com. So check all that out and make sure you check out Chef April Johnson's Instagram as well. Maybe order some pasta from her. It will not be the stuff I made. However, the stuff I made was pretty good. Not gonna lie. Okay, I think that's it. There's only one thing left to do. Be safe, make good choices, wash your hands, just try to be a good person, stay hydrated, and peace out, Brussels sprout. Bye.